PRIICE under the coordinatorship of Dr. Abdul Karim, constantly working on development of entrepreneurship among students. We organized a lot of programs during last academic year and also during this COVID lockdown period. Karim is expecting a minimum few students in this heading from PSMO college. That is the reason why now we are moving to a course, a short course on entrepreneurship, dealing different areas connected with the development of entrepreneurship among students. We developed under the PRIICE of PSMO college. We are moving to establish some programs already developed, and also under this heading, we already registered for patent some creative activities of students. And by this program, the program starting today, and also we'll move to some other lectures of some eminent personalities. I am also expecting something new from students. And also I request all student members to make this program to the best level. And also you have to clarify all your doubts and other important points with our resource person, Mr. Harikrishnan, and also, sir, as principal of PSMO college, I express my thanks also to you, sir, for being with us in this afternoon with our entrepreneurship cell. With this words I conclude, because I'm very busy, sir. A lot of persons are waiting, connected with admission, community admission, lot of calls are coming. That is why the call is also coming to this phone. That is why here and there the speech is interrupted. Okay. With these words, I am very happy to inaugurate the short course on entrepreneurship, and also its first lecture by Mr. Harikrishnan. Okay, thank you very much, Karim.
Okay, sir. Then we welcome Harikrishnan, sir.
Thank you. Am I able to share the screen now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm just checking. So it's not able to share entire screen. One second. Yeah, okay. I'll click this. Now, are you able to see my screen?
Not. Yes, it's presenting.
Able to see, right?
Yes.
Okay, right. So thank you, Dr. Abdul and Dr. Aziz, for allowing me to inviting me to this presentation. It is titled "The Journey of a Startup Entrepreneur." So that's it. So I titled the journey as I guess before moving on to the talk, I would like to just set my expectations straight, because there are very senior people who are aware of what an entrepreneurship, more about entrepreneurship, and there are also students who are just yet to pass the college, and especially from arts background, also to pass out and try their own mechanisms, their own startups, their own business models. So I have created this this session talk for high-level audience, but then I can tone it down to the students as well, if required, so that you can get maximum information or maximum effect out of it. So I begin this talk by asking a question: what is a startup? And the second question is, what is then an entrepreneur? So as I have titled startup entrepreneur, is startup same as entrepreneur, or is entrepreneur same as startups, or are they completely different? So the answer to this question is, an entrepreneur is someone who conducts business with all the resources in his hand. So he'll be having a lot of money to invest into his infrastructures, his assets, and then conduct the business while employing salaried employees and having all the facilities. So such a person can be termed as an entrepreneur. He might not need to work with a game-changing idea or a game-changing innovation, and he can simply remain an entrepreneur. But what is a startup is? A startup is something entirely that is different from an entrepreneur, because in startups, there might not be even funding. A person can begin a startup with just one of an idea. Okay, so he might not be having the team resources. He has to struggle in order to make the ends meet. So startup is different from entrepreneur, and a startup entrepreneur means an entrepreneur who has crossed the chasm. I'll tell what do you mean by crossing the chasm. He covered all the hurdles and bottlenecks, and an entrepreneur is attempting a startup idea, and that is on the growing trajectory. So I'm mainly telling you about the journey of such a startup entrepreneur who has crossed the chasm and built a product for an established product market fit, and then he's trying to scale this product in the market scenario. So that is the journey which we are focusing on. So I hope you understand the difference between startup and entrepreneur, and what a startup entrepreneur is. Now, as we see, I hope everyone is safe and secure in the time of COVID. And as you see, during COVID, what all happened? A lot of products were called off. People were not shifting outside their homes. And then a few products like sanitizers, masks, other PPE kits, and all ventilators, etc. The demand of all these went high during the time of COVID. And in the online scenario, something like Zoom platform, instant messaging platform, online meetup platform, applications. So every such applications like Uber Eats, Swiggy, etc. They showed a growth trajectory during the time of a huge adversity in the form of a pandemic. So that is why it leads to a question: why do we need more startup entrepreneurs in this society, in this country, and in this world? Because they are attempting to solve a problem, trying to meet a need, or trying to follow a trend. Okay, I'll once again repeat: they're trying to solve a problem, trying to meet a need, and trying to follow the trend or break the trend. Okay, so a startup entrepreneur will be a founder typically, who is having a lot of ideas and is trying to convert that into reality in terms of market positioning. So we need more and more entrepreneurs in the society who are adding value to the society by bringing on their own products and asking the customers to buy them, because it can create a change in their lifestyle and habits. So we need more startup entrepreneurs. And secondly, startup entrepreneurs also give employment to a huge variety, a huge number of audience like you or like me. So everyone, the startup landscape in the current era, we all are a part of the same ecosystem in terms of startup. So that is what we can conclude from startup entrepreneurs. Now, before going to say that the startup journey is all a bunch of roses, let us analyze the actual statistics of startup. So a startup entrepreneur, what happens is that they feel the adrenaline rush whenever they are studying in a college or talking to friends, they feel an adrenaline rush to start something of their own. Okay, and then what happened? They pile up some money from friends and families, and then they start up, and then after 3 or 5 years, people don't know what happened to that company or what happened to that idea. I have personally saw a lot of examples here also. During 2000, I have some friends who's in 2016 and 17. Right now, they are not in the startup business. So the thing is that startup entrepreneurship at this point of time, it has a very high failure rates. In fact, 90 to 95% of the startups established fails in the first 3 to 5 years. So now this is because people are not knowing in prior about the startups and its implications. There is no apt coaching or mentoring to provide them. There are no incubators like yours and other incubators in Kerala to provide them the adequate knowledge. And there is also founders issues also. Founders out of touch. Founders are sometimes out of touch, or out of synergy with each other, and then they sometimes lose focus. Then sometimes the product they launched is missed time, and so on. Sometimes what happens is that they also did not meet the standards of the investors. So this is the reason why startups fail after a lot of time. I'll just shift you to the full screen. So now I'm going to explain what a business model canvas is. So am I able to? Are you able to see the screen?
Sir, actually, we cannot see your presentation.
Okay.
No slides, sir.
No slide. So I'm just checking whether
now we see only your window.
Okay. Then I'll share once again. Actually, I missed sharing the window only. Sorry. I think now you are able to see, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So this was a slide which I was explaining about startup in the previous slide. If there's any query on it, we can address it at the end. So now I am moving towards. So this in here I said that why the startups are failing. So there are several reasons why the startups fail. Okay. So there might not be a market need for the product. There are pricing, costing issues. Then there's poor marketing. There is no marketing person in the team. And so on. So it was a bad idea to invest as well sometimes. So this is the reason why startups fails. And now we can see. So we can see what a business model canvas is. So it is important to write a business model canvas before you figure out what industry you are in and what startups you are beginning. It's because it extracts the value chains between your key partners, your key activities, key resources, value propositions, customer relationships, segments, channels, cost structure, revenue streams. So this business model canvas is a standard template by Harvard University, and that is extensively used by startup founders from all over the globe. So this business model canvas, it can be used for a particular startup. For example, some among you have a startup idea. Then we start with what is the value proposition of the idea. So suppose I'm saying that I'm trying to open a hyper-local delivery service for vegetables and fruits. Then what is the value proposition? I can write, I will supply good variety of vegetables and fruits at your doorsteps, wherever you are, based on your preferences. So that is the one value proposition. Now, in order to fill in other columns, so what are my key activities? My key activities are taking orders from the customer or the app, and then trying to match them with the areas of which customers, the logistics chain, supply chain, what are my key resources? My key resources can be my employees who is working on the same. Key partners can be someone who is offering you to deliver this fruits and vegetables through logistic partnerships. Customer relationship, someone who is behind the customer satisfaction, and then so on and so on. You can fill the whole canvas and then try to develop whether your startup model actually fits into the current market. So that is how you make a startup and then try to establish whether the startup is relevant or it can have the product market fit. So I'll just show one of the value proposition this has filled in. So it's one for a 360-degree digital marketing agency. So such an agency has filled out this customer business model canvas before they are when they are in the business. This need not be before they are going to. It can also be once they have entered this business. One second. Okay. So now the startup has entered the startup market in the broad market. And what is running currently? Currently, what are the trends in the innovation? Currently, there are a lot of trends like artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, biomedical innovations, and there are a lot of trends also in the digital field. So sometimes what happens is that there is a trend in the industry, like everybody is going to do business in artificial intelligence, and now no one is planning to start in digital marketing. So what happened? That is because the innovation trigger happened. So and then what happens is that it reaches a peak of inflated expectations that it is going to be industrial change. So people expected that in 2018 or 19, blockchain, AI and ML technology will rule all of the segments of the industry. But what happened? It didn't happen. It didn't happen that AI or ML are right now dominating, at least for a certain area of the market. So they have now they have expected a lot, and the expectation curve comes down, and then they kind of go through a disillusionment. Now what happens is that they already had expected that the AI and ML industry will reach a high, and then it did not happen. And now what happens is that those expectations is plateauing, and now we have plateaued sort of expectations. Now, when you are starting a startup based on this peak inflated expectations, what happens? Just creates a bad tremor in our startup, because we are expecting a lot of income to come in, cash flow to come in, but that didn't happen. So this is the hype cycle, industry hype cycle people regularly talk about. Now, I'll just explain what chasm is. It's a concept by Jeffrey Moore. Now, this is a model of which explains how people establishes their purchases or follows follow their loyal brands. So there are innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. I'll explain you each and what it is. So when a product is in the market, suppose Apple is launching its iPhone 12 in the market. So now what happens? There are people who just go and purchase Apple when and all this product is in the market. Forget Apple. Take it a model of a car, for example. Now, innovators, what they do, they just go and buy the car right when the model is launched. And then there are early adopter. They after their launching, after a little bit of time, they purchase the car. So they are known as early adopters. So those early adopters consist of 13.5% of the approximate segment of the market, and the innovators are the ones who consist of 2.5% of the market. Now consider this as a startup. You have established a startup. Now some sales are coming in. You have this product in line and service in line, and some sales are coming in, And what happens is that the initial set of people are innovators. And secondly, next phase are early adopters. Now, what happens? People think that the startup is going to scale, but that does not definitely happen all the time. Okay. Then there happens that the mainstream market has not yet started to follow this early market. That's what is happening. So in the early majority, what happens is that if it is a FMCG product, then there will be an early majority of people purchasing it, the whole product, and those early majority will be 34, around 1/3 of the whole product buyers. And then there is a late majority and the laggards. Laggards are the one who purchase it when the product life cycle has lost. I mean, it has lost its market value and trying to wane off. So when a startup is at the minimum early adopter stage, what happens is that if you are not met by enough number of sales or enough number of customers, it doesn't go through through the early majority stage. And then this small gap happens when the startup is about to burn out. That means burnout means they have invested a lot of money and then their cash position is very low, and then they are trying to close down through burnout. So what happens is that in that chasm, the startup is not able to get enough customers or premium segment of customers during that time. And now Jeffrey and Moore explains ways in which startups can cross the chasm. He categorized this journey of a startup as crossing the chasm. And now, as I said, there is this hype cycle. Hype cycle is when the hype cycle comes to the industry level. Sometimes we can say that the industry which you are focusing on is in the peak stage. Okay. Now, this hype is there. Hype is there means people are trying to invest in a whole lot in that technology. There are buyers for the technology. And then there are people, when that technology is used, it can be a good innovation in your business model as well. So when that happens, when the hype cycle is in the top, and now we want to reach the chasm, this market hype cycle is actually helping the startup to scale up to the next level. So that is why I explained the hype cycle before. And when the hype cycle coincides with the chasm, then the startup can move ahead. Very simple. You take the examples of this Zoom. So during the lockdown, the Zoom's revenue was say X. After the lockdown, there are 3,000 X or 5,000 X their revenue multiplied. So how does that happen? So that in a positive or negative way, this pandemic has influenced Zoom in helping them for increasing their sales. So that is the right time. So right time innovation was needed, and a hype cycle was created, and then for online video conferencing, and that fell exactly at the chasm of a company called Zoom. So now just every startup which you need to know, or they take it towards the last end is of the marketing. Okay. Now people think of developing a product, and that is a part of a new product development. Now what happens is that a new product is developed. Now probably people are thinking about its marketing. But before that, we need to know whether your product is good and it is adding value to your potential market, and so on. So in the marketing, as you might have already studied if you're MBA students, the marketing mix consists of the product marketing mix as well as service marketing mix. The product marketing mix consists of 4 P's, that is place, product, promotion, and price. So place is the channels through which you sell your product. Product is the actual product you in hand that solves a customer problem. Promotion is the ways in which we promote a product, like it can be advertising or online or digital social. And price is the price you get paid while promoting the product. And in terms of service, so there are two types of which you can make and sell. One is a service, and other is a product. So for service, this marketing is actually 7 P's: price, promotion, place, and product already there. Now people, process, and physical evidence are new, because service is something that is intangible. For example, take the example of cutting your hair in a hair salon. So it is not actually a product, right? It's actually a service. We don't know that whether that person will actually cut your hair in a nice way. We just perceive it from other people who have gone there. Sometimes you see the digital media of that. Sometimes you see the comments of that. But you can try and go to a hair shop and then say that it is good or bad. So that comes in under part of a service. And for example, there's customer care. How this Airtel SIM or our mobile phone SIM is being serviced. It is an intangible thing. We cannot say without experiencing how your customer service call was good or bad. So, but in product, you can obviously say product. You can sometimes you can take and check a use of a product if it is working and all, and those all things. So we have the frameworks in marketing, both for products and service. Now, in marketing, we adopted 3V framework. That is the latest framework which people adopt. One is that of a valued customer. So let us see, if you are marketing a services to some customer, then you will ask, who are you serving to? Now, value proposition. In that, we are asking, what are you offering your customer? And then there is a value network, seeking the answer to the question, how to offer this value to the customer. So I'll explain this. So this means what kind of product you have. It has been thought already before you are developing a product. What are you serving your customer? What are you offering? What to offer your customer, and how to offer? How to offer means whether your placement communication channels are direct delivery, or is it online, or is it packaged, and so on and so forth. So how this works is being studied under the marketing paradigm. So now marketing is all about creating, communicating, and delivering value. Marketing also in services also involves co-creation from the customer end. Co-creation from the customer end. Let me say you are going for a gym or cutting the salon, for example. So in both that, it requires us to perform some activities. So in the gym, although the place is that of a gym chain, we are going there and doing some activities. Without that, the marketing of that service is not complete. So the companies want customers to co-create so that the service is full. And next is choosing the right marketing mix allows the firms to accelerate their growth plans. Now I said the startup already crossed the chasm. Okay, now what? They have to accelerate their marketing, and then they need to be aware of all these. Now, in terms of if they are selling a services, it is very good news for India that India is going to be a service economy, mostly service economy by 2030 at least. So this is what I wanted to say about the marketing part. And now I just want to focus on product development. So how can you say that your product developed, okay, is being accepted by the market? Okay, so whenever you are trying to develop a new product, it should offer some form of relative advantage of the existing product. Okay, so try and think of a new product, and that is more relatively advantageous than the current product. For example, you can try and think about many examples as such. For example, if it is a packaged food item, then the packaging can be improved so that the food items remains more safe and secure in it without the passage of air or moisture. So in that way, we are thinking whether there is a relative advantage for your product than other product when it is consumed by your future customer. Compatibility. Compatibility is the thing that you again need to search before launching a product. That is, a product is known to be compatible when it creates a new behavior or it modifies a new behavior without disrupting the whole flow of his life cycle. So a person wakes up in the morning at 7 and they go to bed back at 9:30. And if you're trying to keeping awake by providing him an app through 12 o'clock, then at some point of time, it will create problems for him. His work-life balance will be affected. His job will be affected. And then people won't be buying your product anymore. So the product which you are selling has to be incompatible with the lifestyle of your customer. Now, again, the other factor is complexity. Complexity means if the product is complex enough for the person to handle, then the person or the group of target audience which you're trying to sell to might not accept this as a product. So it has to be simple. Okay, it has to be simple to utilize. It has to be straightforward to understand what product is and what value it serves. Trialability. Trialability is another important factor. Trialability is when, suppose you go to a shop, it's a garment shop, and then they allow you to wear the clothes and then try it on. Then if you're going to purchase a car, then there's a test drive facility available. So this is a very important factor which people overlook, whether a new buyer should try your product or not, and then they decide whether to continue with your product or not, adopt your product or not. Observability is something which it can be observed in the customer, okay, as a tangible or an intangible way. So whenever that the person is using the product, the person is observed using the product, and then we can provide some something about that, more information about the goodness of the product. And other thing is the jobs to be done analysis canvas for a new product. So whenever you are buying a new product or making a new product, there are a large number of jobs to be done. That is in the customer-centric manner. So in the customer-centric manner, it can be fulfilling the emotional value and the functional value. Okay. For example, if you're buying a kind of a tennis racket or a badminton racket, it should be a functional badminton racket. It should not be a lower model. You need to be able to play good badminton with that. Okay, and then it also need to be satisfying your emotional feel about that product as well. So jobs to be done analysis canvas when filled will analyze the jobs to be done so as your customer is reached, and it offers satisfaction both in terms of functional and emotional way. Now, as you said, we initially said that the startup doesn't have a fund to market or build a product or design a prototype and so on. So what happens is that the concept of minimum viable product comes in. So there is a minimum viable product and the minimum visible product that combinedly create a minimum viable product where the startup can offer the product or a service to a customer so that there is some kind of value added to the customer. So here we are starting with a paddle, okay, and then we move on to a bicycle, then a car, then a motorcycle, and then a motor car. Okay, so what happens is that here the minimum viable product is designed on the basis that the customer, you're thinking of a customer who can travel, who requires to travel. Okay, in that the need for traveling is completely being fulfilled in the second portion. So in the first, he tried to build a car, and then he came out with only a chassis, and then he came up with a car with no covering, and then finally he came with the car. So this is a dangerous track to go for a startup, because all your funds will be done. R&D fund will be exhausted by the time you build a car. But you can always keep the customer need in mind. Start with the trolley, then a cycle, motorbike, and motor car, and so on. So you have to develop the minimum viable product cycle in order that you build the minimum viable product, and that is also able to get to sale in an efficient manner. And now I created a product. Okay, I got the R&D funding and I created a product. And now what happens? You have to try to enter the market, right? So in the market, what happens? The market is determined by entry or exit of a company in market is determined by Porter's 5 forces model. So one is the 5 forces. That are the 5 forces which combine with and complies the entry of a startup in this particular industry. So in the Porter's 5 forces, these are the 5 forces which determines the entry or exit of a startup into a industry. So one is the threat of new entrants. So how easy it is means how easy it for your new business to set up a shop. I mean, if there are threats from other entrants and there is competition, it might not be wise for us to enter into a startup giving our full dedication. Bargaining power of your suppliers. So we are, we have begun a startup, and then we are thinking that we have a bargaining power on our buyers. Okay, buyers and suppliers, bargaining power of buyers and bargaining power of suppliers. Then we are on the safe side, because whatever things which you need to buy, we can bargain at a lower cost and buy, and whatever thing which we need to sell, we can sell it to our suppliers. Our suppliers doesn't have that much bargaining power so as to get that product or service from us. Now the threat of substitute. Substitute means for Uber there is a substitute called Ola, but then it ends with that. Other than Medu and all other companies, it ends with that. But if there is a large number of substitute for the product which you have already designed, then will you go and make a startup? No, right? So that is the threat of substitutes. Now, intensity of competitive rivalry is another. Sometimes the firms will be intensely competing from another in the industry, so that there is no space for another startup to come. So if there is a less intensity competition, then it is always advised to enter into the industry. Now, the other analysis is SWOT analysis. In SWOT analysis, what is done is that it is mainly for a business analysis. So if our company is a business, and then we are comparing our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, and our threats, then it consists of a SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis can be done before you are going into the market, and then it can also be compared with other similar competitors as well. Now, one more thing which I would like to add is about the financing cycle of a startup. So in the financial startups, the startup will be every time lack of money in the initial trends, initial sites. So there is a value of the debt that is there. And now when the startup crosses the chasm, there's a high exponential growth over here. Then it comes for VCs, acquisitions, mergers, and strategic alliances at that point of time. So whenever you are down with cash, your startup is down with cash and you have burned out, certain people will come and try to invest in your startup, provided it's a good idea. So they are not as angels, seed capitals, then friends, families, and foes. So they again try to invest in our startup, and if it is a good idea, they will be trying to invest in our startup and try to make it a break even. And if your startup is getting succeeded, then you are making a VC presentation and trying to get more fund in your early stage. And VC, it can be one VC fund or two or three, and finally it goes on to IPO and private equity. So this is a general startup financing cycle. I hope more or less people in the management area will know about it, or the entrepreneurial area will know about it. And there are many mechanisms to finance your startups at this point of time. So this is how a cash flow burning occurs. Cash flow means something. I mean, you have to also model cash flow at the point of time when you are trying to run a startup. You have to be very sure about your 3 months cash flow or 6 months cash flow or 1 year cash flow. Otherwise, what happens is that your burn will be so much nearer to the date you started. So I think I have covered more or less whatever I would like to wish to convey to an audience like this. I have covered a new product, what is new product development, marketing, startup journey. So this actually completes the journey of an entrepreneur. So an entrepreneur journey is a double-edged sword. You have to actually try to build a minimum viable product. From the minimum viable product to acquiring funds, everything is in the hands of an entrepreneur. So entrepreneur is somebody who tried to establish a kind of a work culture in the firm, try to do all the firefighting like sales, service queries, etc. initially, and it takes a large amount of time for him to figure out the pivoted product or the main product or the pivoted product, and then come up with a industrially fundable idea. So I would like to thank all the listeners and I'd just like to wind up this talk at this point, and I will be more than interested in hearing your questions or comments on this talk. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for a nice presentation. I must say that you nicely explained who is a startup entrepreneur, and I was not aware about the chasm gap before. Thank you for teaching new things, and I have learned the 5 factors of Rogers model. And when we launch a product or service, we have to consider the emotional factors also. This is new for me, and I'd like to ask you one question, sir.
Yeah, please.
Then, if we face the chasm gap, how can we deal the chasm gap, or the value of death?
Okay. So the initial point, we can deal it in many ways. One is through funding. So we can infuse more funds from our friends, families, and others. So that is one way. If you are not burned so much of your cash, but if you're burned so much of your cash, then you can look at the investors. If you're so confident about your product, then you can look for investors. And another thing is to change the target audience and change the pricing. So sometimes
the matter is that if we are in the valley of death,
yeah,
and we are investing more money,
yeah,
will it become a trap?
Yes, it will become a trap, not for you but for investors. But investors are investing on you because they are confident on your product. If you are confident on your product, and there is you can also, this can also be done by pivoting. So if you are done with the burn and you don't have any cash flow, you might also able to pivot to some other product, because you already have an expertise building one product, and then you can pivot and come to some product that will generate cash flow. So cash flow is everything during the time of chasm. And one another way is to increase your pricing and try to come up with a more premium product.
Sir, then we can share the mic to others. If you have any doubts, you can ask the participants. The session is open for questions. No questions. Sir, I'm from arts and science background, not in a management. I learned it was a nice experience for me.
Okay. So everyone is from arts and science.
Yes, I think so. Most of the participants are because most of the students, participants are from PSMO college. They are belongs to the arts and science background. Some other participants are from outside the college.
Okay. So if there is any clarification which you'd like to make, these are the general things which people in the startup industry works on. So it's a quite bit tough to. I mean, all those jargons are very tough to know because there are a large number of jargons in the startup in industry literature. If you go and search, you'll get more and more jargons. So, but learning the jargons is not one of the things. But to know exactly what is in there is what counts.
Could you share some of your UrbanMuse experience?
Okay, so I started my I completed my master's in 2011, and UrbanMuse was started in 2018. So before itself, I had a firm called Opsitek. So none of my companies are actually a startup. My companies basically, we are startup enablers. So we help the startups, and what we do is we do marketing consulting, we do brand consulting, we do creative media solutions, and we also have an online magazine media of ours called Business Periscope. So there we share the stories of startup entrepreneurs and other businessmen as well. And then we also have working creative media and custom design projects and things like that, branding and related things like that. So before that, before UrbanMuse, I was into Opsitek Scientific Technologies, that to a company which is run by my own and one of my co-founders. So that due to COVID and all, it didn't pick out mostly. So it was there from 2015 onwards, but then due to the COVID, it ran off, some kind of run off. So right now I'm fully committed to our company, and it's basically its operations and management.
Audience, we are expecting questions from our other audience. No questions. I think you have understood everything, or not understood. Anyway, sir, we can end now here.
Okay.
Okay, sir. I welcome Dr. Rashid Kalladi, who is the Vice President of PRIICE-PSMO College. I welcome Dr. Rashid to deliver the vote of thanks. Rashid sir, you are not audible. Rashid sir, please unmute your mic.
Yeah.
Okay. Now
am I audible?
Yes, audible.
Thank you, Dr. Abdul Karim, for your great words. And it's the end of our first session of 15 days startup programs in related with the journey of a startup of entrepreneurship. And Harikrishnan S B, co-founder and director of UrbanMuse Private Limited, Kochi, wonderfully detailed about how to begin a startup and what are the cons of startup programs. And maybe I thought that there is not that much questions related to the subjects. Many of them is a new idea. Sometimes maybe they are wondering about how to become a entrepreneur. So thank you, sir, for your wonderful motivating words to become an entrepreneur. And I hope that at the end of all these sessions, one or two entrepreneurs or startups may come to begins their own programs or entrepreneurship. So let me thank from the side of PRIICE and Institute Incubation Council PSMO And this is a wonderful section, and I am also congratulate the coordinator and the man who behind all these programs, Dr. Abdul Karim, my friend and colleague, PRIICE, President and Director of PRIICE and the Incubation Center for SMOC. And I also most appreciated and valuable presence of my dear friends and colleagues who were with us, who joined the program and joined the, they are traveling together with us in this entrepreneurship, short-term course. So this is the humble beginning of our program, and hope the more to comes in coming days. And thank you for all for your, we expecting great enthusiasm from your side also, expecting more and more from the coming days. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you all. Thank you, sir. Harikrishnan, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, nice meeting you.
Thank you.